You're watching Captains of Industry here on CNBC Africa, and I'm chatting to Herman Mashaba, South Africa's capitalist crusader. It's a pleasure to sit down with you and chat about where we are as a country right now. If you can weigh in with your view.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. As you're aware, this is obviously a topic that's really very topical in the country at the moment. I think all of us, or most of us as South Africans, are overly concerned with current developments, and we really hope that we can really find a solution in arresting this potential threat. But I'm really quite positive that South Africans will rise up to this challenge. Where
have we gone wrong?
I think on many fronts. I think if you really look at this country since 1994 under Mandela's leadership, I mean, a great statesman. I think this country was so blessed to really have someone like that who could inspire the nation. And coming out of a very difficult past, 1994 comes and we had this great leader that inspired all of us as a nation, sold the future to us, and we embraced it, including the international community. But if you really look at what's really happening now the last few years, I think we unfortunately really lack the leadership that can really drive this nation to actually see the future.
Do you believe that we can get a bright future ahead of us?
Look, I think it's not as simple as that. I think, but I personally feel quite positive. I think we're seeing the emergence of quite interesting developments that might really change the course of the direction in the country at the moment. But it's not going to really be an easy road. But I don't really believe it is fair for us as a nation to really be naive that life is easy. Life has never been easy in the past, and it's not going to be easy now and in the future.
Herman, you are one of the biggest and brightest entrepreneurs out of South Africa, and you spend a lot of your time traveling the world speaking about entrepreneurship. Where do you think we can help South African entrepreneurs?
One thing that we're missing fundamentally as a country is our policies dividing us as a nation around racial backgrounds. I think it's really very unfortunate. This whole policies are really unfortunately not doing favor to this country. So I think what we need to do is really start adopting policies that can embrace all of us as South Africans. Because in that process of embracing all of us as South Africans, you will see the economic development of this country will be one of the best performing countries in the world, and the government will be able to really collect more taxes, which we can then use in educating our people, because we really need for us as a country to effect real transformation. Real transformation can only happen once we can recognize the need for us to empower people, giving them the best education ever.
You feel very strongly that we are going down the wrong path with our current labour legislation. You feel so strongly, in fact, that you've actually taken the government to court. Where are you in the battle, and what in your mind is wrong with labour legislation?
The one mistake that we really made in our news to democracy, we tended to obviously really want to really treat the business as if business is an enemy of the people, and come out with some of the draconian labor legislations, Section 32 of the Labor Relations Act, that literally prevents small businesses from really exploiting their talents and really busy destroying them. And at the same time, what happens, so we end up with one of the highest unemployment rates in the world. I think this Section 32 really I find it actually quite difficult to understand why the Minister of Labour in this country supports such a draconian labour legislation that prevents 8.5 million South Africans from really getting an opportunity to decide for themselves what type of work they've got to really do. So it's really very unfortunate. And
elaborate on Section 32.
So what happens with this piece of legislation, it allows the big labour unions and big business to get together on a regular basis, agree on conditions of employment for their particular sector. Once these agreements are signed, these are private parties. The law then forces the Minister of Labour to extend these agreements to other parties involved in that particular sector. And who are the biggest casualties? Small businesses and unemployed South Africans. So I cannot see how a minister of a country in a country of such high unemployment can allow private agreements to be extended to other people who are not party to those agreements. These agreements, obviously, they suit big business because then they destroy small businesses who should really be competing with big business. And secondly, it suits big labor unions because they can negotiate the best deals for their members. But then the Minister of Labour misses a very fundamental point for her to really understand that she has the responsibility to the unemployed South Africans. Her responsibility is to really create that environment that really promotes job creation in the country and ensure that there's fairness in the
I want to put this into perspective for our audience because you feel so passionately about Section 32 that you've spent 2 years fighting it with your own financial resources, significant financial resources that you've thrown into this fight right now. Can you continue to take this fight on?
One thing, Bronwyn, I've really made a commitment to this country that I will fight this piece of legislation until I have the last cent, because I think it looks like the strategy right now is to really frustrate me financially, exhaust me financially. And one thing for sure, I'm really committed. For as long as I have money in my bank, I'll fight it until I have the last cent in place. But it's really quite unfortunate when you can have the government that does not really respect the rule of law. Because when you have the civil society being against aspects of our constitution, the government has got to really be an exemplary in ensuring that I think we respect the spirit of our constitution.
Herman, you have come from a position of building your own business, a very successful business. You took on the position of the chairman of the Free Market Foundation. And then you got everybody very excited because you resigned that position to announce that you were joining the Democratic Alliance, the DA, and that you were a card-carrying member of the DA.
I think it's a really high time for us as South Africans, particularly the privileged South Africans, for our political views to really be known. I'm a free citizen of this country. The Constitution protects me and gives me the right to really decide who I vote for. I vote for political parties that resonate with their value system and their policies.
You're not really answering my question. Well, where, sir, is your political career going?
My political career, I'm an active member of society, for the first time in my life taking such a difficult decision to actually belong to a political party. It's something I never done in the past. But at this point in time, I thought it is really appropriate for us, for me in particular, to really help take this democracy to the next level. And that's exactly what I did.
Do you see yourself taking a more significant position within the DA?
Right now, I have full confidence in the leadership of the Democratic Alliance. There's a reason why I've decided to announce my support for them. And for as long as they continue doing what they're doing, creating a platform for some of us to associate with them, I think I'm happy to really play the role from outside. Obviously, if the country collapses to a stage where some of us need to stand up, absolutely one would really do this, but not to that level where I would really personally, someone with such I've got no knowledge of politics to really be a politician. Obviously, I know about politics because politics is something that affects all of us as citizens, and I think we need to really take special interest in the matter. But I don't think I'm clever enough or experienced enough to really be direct in the political field. I don't really know that field as a politician.
Do you believe that the country is collapsing? If you look at the state of infrastructure in South Africa, Eskom has to come to mind. You must have had many conversations about Eskom and where we are on that front.
No one can really doubt the fact that I think we are really facing a serious challenge. But that is why it's important for us to really help opposition parties like the DA to really create the discussion and really make sure that I think we're not really taken for granted. Because the only way this democracy will survive is that's when you have strong opposition.
Can we chat about Capitalist Crusader, your eminent book.
The book is on its way, and I'm really very excited with this book, because I think my book is going to really create some great interest for people to really understand why I'm so passionate about really encouraging South Africa to pursue, not even South Africa, the entire African continent, to aggressively pursue a capitalist route, because that's the only route that is going to really save this continent. But capitalism, for it to function and operate fairly, we need democracy. We need democratic structures.
Yeah, what is a capitalist? Let's go there. What is a capitalist?
Let's wait for my book, I think, so that you really get it in a proper context. Because to try and really explain it in a minute, that's what I'm saying. It's capitalism. It's free. It's free market.
So how do you explain?
The capitalist system? It's a system that allows me, as an individual, to exploit my talents, for me to really be able to feed myself and my family without any government intervention,
without any regulation,
as much as we need government, so that there's a rule of law, because a proper capitalist system can't operate in an environment where there's no rule of law, there's no democracy, there's no accountability, there's no free media. Media plays a very, very important role in a capitalist free society, because there must be checks and balances, because you must understand, we mustn't be naive to think that human beings, all of us, mean well.
You mentioned Africa, and you said that capitalism is important not only for South Africa, but also for Africa. Your business has expanded into 36 countries across the African continent. How's that journey been from an expansion perspective? Has it been an easy one?
No, look, it's not really been easy. Obviously, as you're aware, I sold 50% of my business to my current partners. And as a group, fortunate enough, for the last 10 years, I have the executive responsibility to run the business. But my partners are doing a great, fantastic job over the continent. If I really look at it as a group.
And that expansion is proving worthwhile.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have teams of our people all the time throughout the continent, really doing a great job. But I've really been fortunate in the sense that I don't have to really be the one doing the running around. I've done that. I've paid the price in my youth. And this is the time for the younger ones to really take over those reins. But I try as much as possible to stay out of the
day-to-day running.
Yeah, because obviously an old man like myself, what do I know about cosmetics and so forth? So,
hardly an old man, Herman Mashaba. Hardly. You have got a very long career ahead of you. There is one element that I just want to focus on in terms of the African expansion. As you've said, you are executive chairman, you are non-executive chairman, you are not hands-on, so to speak, but Nigeria has been a difficult entry point for the business. And we hear that over and over again from South African businessmen. Do you think that is going to change down the line? What has been the biggest barrier to your entry into Nigeria?
If you look at the political developments in Nigeria, I think obviously as of today, the biggest economy in the continent, the most populous nation in the world, and you look at the entrepreneurial spirit in Nigeria, and really look at the political developments. Nigeria, it's going to really be difficult for the country and the world to actually catch up with us, because the Nigerians have developed such a strong entrepreneurial spirit. If you want to really see a capitalist go to Nigeria, and they just really needed a political environment, conducive political environment. And now we look at these elections and a democratic system, I can assure you it's going to really be difficult for the world to catch up with Nigeria. I think.
So you think they're now on a winning wicket?
Oh, absolutely. I think we've got to really to pray for them to really continue in the same trajectory, so that their leadership, political leadership, is aware that if they don't deliver, they're out.
You've achieved a level of success that many only dream of. It's unattainable to the majority. What was it that drove you to that success? Was it a belief in what you did? Was it a passion for the products that you produced? I mean, the Black Like Me story is so well known. You've also penned a book around your story and the entrepreneurial journey. But what gave you the impetus to achieve the
Bronwyn,
success?
as I've tried to really communicate in my first book, the day 1959 when my mother brought me into this world, freedom and self-dignity has always really been something really very close to my upbringing and my beliefs. So I strongly believe, even under apartheid, I've always regarded myself to really be a free human being.
Is money the key to freedom?
Well, absolutely. I think you need money to really be able to really do all the beautiful things that we can do. Without money, we're going to really be poor. And I think that's something that I don't understand with the so-called communist or socialist. Every time discouraging our people against making a profit. You know, I mean, for me, it's such a weird kind of situation. If you want your country, your people to really develop, you've got to allow them to make money, to make profits. As long as they operate within the legal framework, they pay their taxes, that's something that we need to really encourage.
Your success also comes with a love story. Connie Mashaba has been at your side from the very beginning. How important is that support?
At the age of 22, I took a conscious decision to stabilize my life. You know, coming out of an environment of womanizing and so forth. And I realized, Herman, the business, for whatever reason, the environment requires stability. And I took that hard decision at 22, Connie was 20. And one decision I saw really treasure. We've been married now over 33 years, and Connie is still my best friend. She's my best golfing partner, and we travel together the world. She's my #1 friend.
If I say to you, you are going to be president of South Africa tomorrow. This is a hypothetical situation. And you have one thing that you can change. Obviously, that's Section 32.
Yeah, well,
is that Section 32 or is there something bigger?
No. Obviously, we've got other bigger challenges. I think for me, immediately to really encourage South Africans to be South Africans first. Whether male, female, white, black, whatever.
So lose the racial divide.
No, absolutely. I think for me, every time to really be addressing our people as whatever, I think I find it to be offensive.
Herman, there must be so many people watching this interview right now thinking, I wonder what it's like to walk in the shoes of a successful entrepreneur. The extent, the magnitude of a Herman Mashaba. Perhaps we can give them a little fast-track lesson in this. What does a day in your life consist of?
Well, I think it really depends. I mean, obviously, over the years, you know, when I started my business career as a salesman, as a trader, as a salesman, you know, I used to travel a lot, extensively. You know, people don't believe that for close to 15 years, I used to do 10,000 kilometers a month. So my car had to be serviced every month.
You used to drive 10,000 kilometers a month?
Every month. And I knew every part of this country, township, village, town, to be in Botswana every month, be in Swaziland, be in Lesotho, you know. So obviously, was it easy? And you can imagine in the beginning, my car did not even have an aircon. You know,
so there was some very hard traveling across Africa.
But you know what? I didn't really take this to really be a challenge. It was life, and I embraced challenges because I think we survive in life by embracing challenges.
All the hard work that you put into your life and your relationship has led to the success that you've achieved. But come back to telling me what it's like to be Herman Mashaba now.
Well,
I want to know what you do when you wake up in the morning.
Yeah, well,
take us through a typical day.
A typical day.
My
office is around here in Sandton. Takes me 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the traffic. I get to my office because I've got investments in various sectors of the economy. I will obviously really get together with my teams.
Lots of meetings. Do you have lots of meetings?
Lots of meetings, and really looking at how we can really grow our portfolios and encourage. Actually, the biggest thing that I do, and with all the businesses I've invested in, is to inspire the management to really be the best. I don't really like to really see growth in my own particular investment company. Where I'd like to really see growth is in all those businesses I've invested in. And so that's really what I do. My key role is actually inspire the executives to ensure that they help take our businesses to the next level. And yeah, and what has now happened the last 18 months or so, or 3 years, I'm getting so much sucked into this social activism. But it's something that I feel, it's not a question of enjoying it. I think it's something that I believe my privileged position, it's necessary to really enter the debate. Developments in life, to a large extent, they don't happen by chance. They happen because people drive the outcomes. And that's really what I'm trying to do, to ensure that I think we can have the desired outcome. When I see a threat, find a way to actually manage it so that we don't really destroy this beautiful country.
We've spoken a lot about your success. What about your failures? What's been your biggest disappointment?
A painful moment of my life was on the 17th of November 1993 when someone touched my factory. I mean, at the height of...
and you write extensively about that in your book.
It was quite a painful moment of my life to really see this factory to the ground. I left it obviously the night before. I was the last one to leave the factory, and the following morning I was to meet my team starting at 6 o'clock, starting at 2, running on a 24-hour basis. So I was going to be the one to really introduce the new team starting at 6 o'clock and having the next team starting at 6 in the evening. And you get woken up at 2 whatever in the morning, and you get there. I realized there was just no way we were going to save this factory. And obviously, at that point in time, you say to yourself, am I going to be able to bounce back out of this tragedy? And when people started coming in the morning
crying... Did it make you stronger? It made you stronger?
Oh, no, it made me more stronger, more determined. And obviously, I think for me it was such a great learning experience of ever not taking life for granted, because that incident has demonstrated to me that, Herman, it's possible that your life can change overnight.
Today you mix with some of the most amazing international business leaders. You are part of the WPO, World President Organization. How does the peer group, your peer group in those circles, how did they feel about South Africa? Because we get so much negative publicity in international forums.
They used to obviously really be concerned whether this country is going to really make it through this complex political dispensation. And it was actually quite difficult to really give a view whether we're going to succeed or not. And fortunately enough, as I said, indicated earlier on, there's this magical human being called Nelson Mandela came and brought in a totally new dimension to the country. And it was such a privilege to really be a South African. Anywhere in the world you traveled, you know.
So you've seen that transition through the eyes of the YPO.
Yeah, as soon as people learn you're South African, I think they'll be so envious. They just could not understand the miracle of what this country is.
But more recently, Herman?
Oh,
more recently, the news flow?
It's becoming really very difficult. It's actually, honestly and truly, sometimes if I can avoid not expose myself as South African where there's no need, I'd rather not engage, because I think you get asked some very difficult questions that I don't have really answers to.
What do you say to young South Africans? Because you mentor a lot of people. What are you saying to young South Africans wanting to follow in your footsteps?
For me, really, I'd really urge our children, our kids out there to really take education as a priority. Because without really very strong educational background and foundation, we're going to have challenges. But then what also becomes really very difficult, more especially kids who are receiving public education, it's really very difficult to really inspire them to really take this education that's failing them seriously.
What can we do to fast-track solutions around education in the country?
We need a leadership that can recognize.
It all comes back to the leadership in question.
And it looks like this leadership can only be brought about by political dispensation, by the creation of strong oppositions or a new party altogether taking over. Because I think our government is really very relaxed, because when you have a dominant one-party political system like ours, that's when politicians unfortunately abuse the citizens. And I think we South Africans, I hope they can learn from our Nigerian counterparts to understand that let's get our politicians to really be accountable. Because how can you really correct a failing educational system without a political intervention. Unfortunately, there you need political intervention. And I think it's what's unfortunate about the failure of our education. It's not the money. I think if you really look at South Africa's investment in education as compared to our GDP, we spend so much money on education, but wrongly, the money doesn't really go to the right outcomes. So it's not really the money that's a challenge.
What does the future Herman Mashaba look like?
Well, Bronwyn, I've really committed to the balance of my life. Obviously, still really run my business and promote the capitalist system. But I'd really like to really see myself as an active citizen, no longer taking things for granted from a political point of view, and encouraging South Africans because can I assure you, for democracy to work, it requires active citizenship. And I think I'd really like to see...
Are you going to take that active citizenship to the global stage?
Well, I think let us really start it here at home. I think we need South Africans to really wake up to that reality. We don't need international people to really tell us how to really run our own country. Let us, as South Africans, take responsibility for the future of this country. Yes, the international community will help us, but we've got to first help ourselves. As you're aware, I'm involved with one of the NGOs, the Philbin Foundation. I work with Norwegians, with Americans, with the Dutch, and so forth. Great international community, really concerned with the plight of our children in South Africa. But one thing that my engagement with them all the time is, Herman, why are South Africans not obviously really being involved as more to really do with the future of their children? So I think the responsibility is with us as South Africans to actually really take the leadership in ensuring that we do what is right. And and the international community must just really be there, just giving us a helping hand.
I've been chatting to Herman Mashaba, one of South Africa's most successful entrepreneurs. You're watching Captains of Industry here on CNBC Africa.